Leaders from across the Indo-Pacific have gathered in Malaysia's capital city, Kuala Lumpur, today for the 12th ASEAN Defence Ministers meeting. Plus, the high-level meeting hosted by Malaysian Defence Minister Mohammed Khaled Nordin has brought together ASEAN members and 8 dialogue partners, including the United States, China, Japan, Russia, India and others. The focus was on regional security, maritime safety and counter-terrorism in the Indo-Pacific region. Speaking at the ceremony, the Malaysian Defence Minister has expressed deep concern over the humanitarian tragedy in Gaza and called on all nations to use their influence responsibly. Let's take a listen into the statements.
Malaysia expresses our deep concern over the humanitarian tragedy in Gaza and Palestine, where starvation and deprivation are being used as weapons of war. Malaysia urges all nations, especially major powers, to exercise their influence in accordance with the international law.
Additionally, the Malaysian Defence Minister has welcomed support from partners, including the United States and fellow ASEAN members, in promoting a peaceful resolution to regional border disputes. Let's listen in.
Malaysia welcomes the United States' comprehensive plan to end the conflict in Gaza. Closer to home, Malaysia also commends Cambodia and Thailand for demonstrating constructive dialogue to resolve border disputes. And we highly appreciate the support of partners, especially the United States, the rest of ASEAN and China in promoting this peaceful resolution.
In a subsequent development, Malaysia has officially handed over the ASEAN Defence Chairmanship to the Philippines. It will now be leading the regional defence agenda and host a series of meetings next year. US Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth was also present at the handover, following his participation in the ADMM Plus meeting. His visit comes amid global reactions to US President Donald Trump's announcement that the United States would begin testing its nuclear weapons, which is a move that has drawn concern across Southeast Asia. Collins joins us once again to discuss this. Of course, ASEAN partners and ASEAN, of course, are discussing maritime safety and counter-terrorism. And now, of course, with a huge US presence in the Indo-Pacific, ASEAN would say, to help stabilize the region. Do these shared agendas still outweigh the deep strategic mistrust among these major powers that are present at this meeting?
The level of the interdependence in terms of economic and, of course, the security dependence by ASEAN towards these two main powers, China and the US. We have also seen this fragmentation. It's fragmented in terms of individual ASEAN member states with regards to increasing their own defense capacity or their defense reliance. Vietnam, for example, has this multifaceted defense partnership with Russia, also with China and the US. And of course, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia share the same foreign policy approach, where it's mainly based on strategic hedging and balancing, without the need to be pivoting towards one side or the other. So we have seen how for the past couple of years now, there have been consistent efforts by ASEAN as a whole to increase its joint capacities and capabilities in terms of interoperability, in terms of joint patrols and joint activities, but they have not been sufficient to stand up to China and to provide this needed deterrence against China. So the reality has always been that ASEAN or individual ASEAN members will need to rely on external powers. And in this regard, we have seen how other powers, including the EU, in terms of European powers, we have the Germans, we have the French, we have the Britons, we have been here now in this part of the world trying to fill the gap, but they have not been successful. They have been tied up with their concerns in Europe with Ukraine. Russia has tried to do the same to increase its own power influence here. But reality lies on the ground that the truth has always been that only the US has the capacity, both the trust and the historical legacy and the hard power capability to ensure that the region's peace, safety and stability are maintained. and to uphold the rules-based order and to uphold the sanity of the international law. And the region realizes this. But of course, on public, they are tied by this ASEAN model of centrality and neutrality. They are not allowed to be seen to be pivoting towards Washington, at the expense of Beijing for the fear of upsetting the apple cart. So this has been the case now. We have so many different mechanisms in ASEAN. We have the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation. We have the Southeast Asian Nuclear Weapon-Free Zone. But they have been futile over the past decades, despite the efforts by ASEAN to be a power connector and power balancer in terms of using dialogue and diplomacy to deter conflicts. We still see the presence of the Chinese nuclear submarines in the South China Sea, for example, despite these mechanisms. And despite the outright, condemnation of the risk posed by AUKUS, we still see behind the scenes, behind the curtain, the region has been yearning for this stability, this stabilizing presence of AUKUS, the stabilizing presence of the U.S. forces. So this has been a reality that ASEAN policymakers will need to face. And moving forward, we are still very much reliant on Washington's hard power presence here in this region.
Yes, thank you very much, Collins, for joining us here on the programme. It's a pleasure to have you here on NewsX World. And we now move over to Europe for our final story. And flights